welcome back to yet another episode of the Checkers or Wreckers podcast, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I am your host, Carter Leonard, and welcome back to yet another episode of the show. This is episode 34 of season 1 of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be back for another week as we have a lot to discuss. But before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, I will say that stay tuned to the end of the episode because there will be some discussions regarding the future of this podcast. And before you ask, no, we are not canceling this podcast. It will be back for next year for its second season. However, we will discuss a future format. But we have a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We have to talk about A.J. Allmendinger's emotional win at the Charlotte Roval and how it deserves a closer look, as well as some silly season rumors and some silly season confirmations that happened of this week. And we'll be also discussing a former Cup Series champion returning as a driver advisor for a particular Cup Series team next year. A lot to uncover, ladies and gentlemen, but let's get started. As with every single episode, ladies and gentlemen, we start out with the weekend recap, and it was Charlotte Roval weekend. It was that time of year, ladies and gentlemen, within the NASCAR playoffs, as it was the round of 12 elimination race, as well as the elimination race for the Xfinity Series the day prior as well. Let's get into the weekend recap. Let's start with Xfinity, as Sam Mayer picked up his third win of the season. So far, all three of Sam Mayer's wins have come on road courses this year. He picked up his first win after a wild, wacky finish at Road America, as the same with Watkins Glen. This time, on the other hand, it was quite different. It didn't come in the wacky fashion, as it was mainly Sam Mayer dominating the race. And my pick to win that race last weekend was Parker Kligerman. And unfortunately, that did not happen, which that means that will end my streak of getting Xfinity Series picks right. I had a 3-in-a-row streak going there, I believe, and it unfortunately came to an end right then and there, as I did predict the Chevy driver to win, but I didn't predict Sam Mayer. I wanted to go with a fun pick and pick Parker Kligerman. That, unfortunately, did not happen. But congrats to Sam Mayer and Junior Motorsports on yet another win. He advances to the round of 8 of their playoffs, as this weekend, along with the Cup Series, it will decide their championship as the weeks go on with Las Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. Now let's get into Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, as it was a big playoff race, as well as any playoff race as of right now. But this was the round of 12 elimination race. There were 12 drivers in this round, but only 8 would be moving on, as 4 drivers would leave and ponder the question of what if. However, instead of a playoff driver taking home the checker flag in this race, it was the opposite, as A.J. Allmendinger, yes, the road rainer himself for Collie Grayson in the number 16 car, who, quite frankly, has a very, very questionable future regarding his 2024 plans, picked up the win at the Charlotte Roval. And as with any A.J. Allmendinger win, it was the most excitement and most emotional win that you could imagine. But this time, we saw a lot more tears from A.J. Allmendinger than we are originally accustomed to when he wins any sort of NASCAR race. And one thing that I really like about A.J. Allmendinger is that he doesn't care if it's a cup race, an Xfinity, or God forbid a truck race. If he wins that race, he is so hyped. Like, this dude just wants to race and just wants to go out and have fun and win. You know, that's what Collie Grayson has really built themselves off of, and that's the trophy hunting thing. They don't really care. They just want to go out and race and have fun, dude. And that's really cool of A.J. Allmendinger to get that win. His new son was born, Arrow James, I believe that's his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this was a very emotional moment for A.J. Allmendinger. And not only was it because of the family side of things, but it was also the racing aspect, as it's been rumored for weeks that, we don't know, what his future is. But we'll get to that later. Let's take a look at the race itself. The 4 drivers that unfortunately are going home are Bubba Wallace, who, quite frankly, surprised a lot of us in these playoffs because, a lot of people, a lot of outsiders who aren't in within the industry look at this and say, well, he didn't win a race. He was a second round exit. I mean, what's so special? But here's the thing, though. A lot of people proved Bubba Wallace to not be, going any farther than the first round of the playoffs, and yet he goes and proves everybody wrong. I mean, that's just incredible from him, man. So, and Bubba Wallace even said before the race, no matter what happens, he is very proud of his team and he's very proud of himself. And, you got to respect that in some ways. So, unfortunate for Bubba, but, I'm sure he'll be better next year. I mean, he improved as the season went on, and there's no denying that. Then you have Ross Chastain, which, unlike Bubba, Chastain did get a victory this year. He picked up his only win so far of the year at Nashville to lock himself into the playoffs. But after that, it just seemed like Chastain plateaued a bit. Like, Chastain just, like, there was times where you would see him, but this was not the 2022 Ross Chastain where he was always up at the front. He was running very, very consistent. So far, Ross Chastain's stats compared to last year are, while there's still wins, there's still a good amount of top 5s and top 10s, it's not really comparable. So Ross Chastain's stats were 1 win, 8 top 5s, 11 top 10s, and 5 stage wins. So not a bad season by any stretch of the imagination, but to say that this was 2022 Ross Chastain would not necessarily be the case. But Trackhouse made the playoffs regardless with him. I expect the same thing next year. It's like Clint Blair said at the beginning of the season. Trackhouse does mean business. They're making, big moves for the future, and, there's a lot that can be said about Trackhouse. Ross Chastain, they signed Shane Van Gisbergen. They're signing a future superstar in Zane Smith. Regardless of what happens, Trackhouse is going to have an amazing future. Then the next driver to get eliminated was Brad Keselowski. The RFK supremacy will not have 2 cars in the playoffs, in the round of 8, I should say, excuse me. This was kind of disappointing to say the least, but then again, Brad was kind of, I don't even know really how to describe Brad's playoff performance. I mean, he was in the first round exit. He had enough points to make sure that he was, good, to make sure that he was good enough to get to the round of 12. But other than that, he was my pick to win at Talladega. That unfortunately backfired on me completely. But, once again, a very good effort by Brad Keselowski, way better than his 2022 season, but we are still waiting for this dude to get in the victory lane. I want to see Brad Keselowski's winless streak come to an end because we are almost coming up on 3 years since the last time this man has won a Cup Series race, and he's actually came close this year. I think the closest, that he came was the second Richmond race. But yeah, unfortunate for Brad Keselowski, but good luck to his teammate Chris Buescher, who has impressed a lot of us this year. Then the fourth and final driver who had a really good run at the Roval, but it was just too little too late, was Kyle Busch. He finished third on Sunday, but with the point situation that Busch was in, he needed to win. And he almost did, but AJ Allmendinger in that 16 car was just, it was just fast. But unfortunate for Kyle Busch. But however you look at it, along with the other 3 drivers I mentioned, there's a lot of positives that outweigh the negatives. First of all, this was Kyle Busch's first year with Richard Childress Racing. And, we got a lot more out of him than we almost anticipated. I mean, he's won 3 races so far this year, so But during the second half of the season, they just kind of fizzled out, like that momentum that they had. Like before the inconsistency started popping up, they had 7 straight top tens from Darlington to the second Atlanta race, and that included a win as well. Um, but it was just too little, too late. I mean, he wasn't a first round exit like last year, but I would call this season a good season for Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing. Again, just like I mentioned with Ross Chastain and Trackhouse, I expect this team to be back in the playoffs next year. And, that the same goes for Bubba and, I should say same goes for Brad and possibly Bubba as well, because all 4 of those drivers, no matter how you look at it, they had, in their respective rights, good seasons, but it just wasn't enough to make the round of 8. But yeah, the Charlotte Roval race was a pretty good one. There were rumors that there was a possibility that we might get 2 Charlotte Oval races next year, but during the week when the schedule was released, that quickly, shot down those rumors. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to 2 Charlotte Oval races because of the fact of how good the next gen runs on mile-and-a-half tracks, but if you want to keep the Charlotte Roval race simply because, of what its purpose originally is, then you know what? I don't have a problem with that. I'm kind of the neutral type of guy here when it comes to this sort of thing. So yeah, if you want 2 Charlotte Oval races, okay, fine. If you want to keep the Roval, okay, fine. Whatever makes this entertaining. And a lot of people are like, good, I'm glad the Roval's not going away, this, and that. And there were some people who were disappointed. Trust me, I mean, mile-and-a-half tracks with the next gen are really, really fun, especially at Charlotte because, have you seen the 600s the past 2 years? I mean, come on, dude, that's just good racing right there. But, it's whatever at that point. And, and I'm glad the Charlotte Roval is staying, it's just, it's always been fun. It's always created memorable moments and stuff like that. So that's one way of looking at it. But with that being said, that'll do it for the weekend recap part of the show, ladies and gentlemen, as we have a lot to talk about this week, and the events that have happened this week because, oh boy, I'm looking at my I'm looking at my script sheet as of right now, and it's just it's a lot. So going back to AJ Allmendinger and his emotional win at the Charlotte Roval real quick. We saw in this post-race interview, the dude was in tears basically, as he was doing his burnout on the front stretches. The Charlotte Motor Speedway crowd was just, on their feet cheering for this man. He even went up and celebrated with the fans after collecting the checkered flag, something that, has been made famous multiple times, and that was just a really cool thing. I'm not the biggest AJ Allmendinger fan by any means necessary, but, I got to admit, this dude is, when he wins, he is very, very entertaining to watch. And, that's just, what's more to ask for from him? And, another thing about this win is that, even though that he did win, this is his first full-time season in a while, we have to realize something real quick, and that is his future in this sport is still very uncertain. He did say that he will be back with Kaulig Racing next year, but, like I said in the past few weeks, regardless if that's Xfinity or Cup Series, we still don't know on that as well. But we'll talk a little bit more about Kaulig Racing, a team in of itself, later on when it comes to silly season news. But yeah, this was a very, very emotional win for him. Like I said earlier, the birth of his new son. And, AJ, he's definitely not one of the youngest drivers in the garage area. I believe how old is AJ Allmendinger? Is he like 45 or something? Correct me if I'm wrong. He is 41. I was way off. Good Lord. I mean, I thought he was a little bit older than that, but, yeah, AJ's, I wouldn't say, I don't want to say he's going to be retiring soon, but, he's definitely getting up there in age. But if the dude is still winning races, regardless if it's Cup, Xfinity, or anything like that, then, let the dude have fun and let him celebrate, So this was a very, very emotional win for him. Congratulations to him and Colleague Racing, Hopefully that the future of that team is, announced soon because, quite frankly, I'm getting tired of waiting and waiting and waiting because they're like, oh, we're very excited to announce, who's going to be in the 16 car next year. I'm like, all right, can we get the announcement sooner rather than later? I get it that there's some things that teams need to sort out, but like, come on, dude. I mean, we can, we're speculating all day about, the multiple candidates that could be filling that 16 seat and, just, we'll make our predictions, but, nothing's official until the official announcement comes out. So, that's one way of seeing it. But, yes, that'll do it for the weekend recap and me talking about AJ Allmendinger's emotional win at the Charlotte Roval. But let's get into the next topic, shall we? But we'll get to that in just 1 minute. Yeah. And the reason why I said 1 minute is because if you are listening to me, I have some... I've noticed in the past few episodes that I have been snorting a lot, and that's because of I don't have any sinus issues as of right now, but I don't like putting that into the episode because, I just, it just doesn't sound really professional, and I get it. There's times where, we do things that aren't really, professional in a way, but, that's why I'm taking these pauses in between the show to make sure that I, get it out of my system. But we did have some breaking news coming out of Legacy Motor Club come out this week, and it wasn't a driver announcement, obviously, but it was also a very interesting announcement, and that is Matt Kenseth has announced that he will join Legacy Motor Club as a competition advisor for the 2024 season. Legacy Motor Club's ownership group continues to build. I don't know if Richard Petty still has any involvement. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson is now the new main owner of the team. And now you have Matt Kenseth joining as a competition advisor. He'll also serve as a mentor for both the 43 car of Eric Jones and returning to the Cup Series next year, the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek. It says right here on this article from the checkered flag.com, it says, Kenseth and team co-owner Jimmy Johnson are contemporaries, the former winning the 2003 Cup Series championship, with the latter a future 7-time champion, was in his sophomore year. And it goes about, the careers and stuff like that. So, yeah, Hall of Famer Matt Kenseth is back. This also marks the return of Matt Kenseth's return to Toyota, and I do find it kind of funny how some people pointed out that he will serve as a mentor to the driver who, I wouldn't say stole his ride back in 2018, but who took over for him, if you want me to be specific. There, I just snorted right there. Goodness gracious. But no, this is a good thing for Legacy Motor Club as they are continuing to build and grow, not only just on the track, but off the track as well. Trying to find sponsorships for, which hasn't been an issue, but I'm sure they're going to get more as, things, continue to progress and go on. Then you also have, the driver's side, the ownership side. It's been an upward trend for Legacy Motor Club, and I honestly can't wait to see how this team is going to do next year. I definitely think that their performance will definitely improve. However, I don't know if they're going to be a championship or race-winning team as of yet, but, could they sneak into the playoffs and surprise everyone? Yeah, I definitely think so, with that new manufacturer support from Toyota that they're going to have. And, yeah, it's really cool to see Matt Kenseth back at some form of the sport. So he will be a competition advisor and a driver mentor, basically. Kind of like what Kurt Busch is doing over at 2311 Racing now, because, Kurt Busch, I don't know if he's necessarily a competition advisor, but he is um, I would consider a driver mentor in a way. So it's nice to see that he has a role there. As in Matt Kenseth is almost following in his footsteps, kind of in the same way. So yeah, good for Matt Kenseth, and good luck to Legacy Motor Club for the rest of the season and into 2024. Now we have some silly season news that came out earlier this week, ladies and gentlemen. And that was one of the top prospects in the sport as of today, that being Carson Hocevar, as it was announced earlier in the week that he has signed with Spire Motorsports to drive the number 77 car in 2024. Basically, as he said it on the Race Hub announcement, which I was watching, probably the worst kept secret in the garage area, as it was heavily rumored for weeks, or even a month also, if you want me to be, if you want me to go really far back. But yeah, the announcement is finally out that Carson Hocevar will be in the Cup Series next year. So the idea of Carson Hocevar going to the Cup Series dates all the way back to last year, actually, as I believe it was one of the owners from Nice Motorsports talking about his future and how he says that he wants Carson Hocevar to run Cup Series races within the next year or so, which obviously he has done this year with Legacy Motor Club, which was not the plan originally, but you take what you could get. And the reason for that is because of the fact that, he found the Xfinity Series to be very, very pointless, and that the fact that you're not going to really learn anything in that series compared to what you're going to learn in the Cup Series. Now, to some extent, that statement is true. I mean, the Cup car that we currently have now, which is the next gen, and the Xfinity Series car, which was basically what the Gen 6 was, or in some cases, was, are two completely different race cars. I could sit here and list all of the the main differences of both cars, but that's neither here nor there. But so and we saw it with Zane Smith this year, how he's running trucks, but he's going up to Cup, to learn the next gen early. And you know what? I think that idea of trying to learn the next gen early is not a bad idea at all. I don't think, a lot of people are expecting. See, the whole point of it really is not to expect those drivers who are coming up to really, set the world on fire and beat all these veterans right away. No, it's just to get your feet in the water of trying to, see where you're going to be in the next year or so. So, and that's exactly what Carson Hocevar did. But man, you want to talk about a guy who's done well on this start. It's like the best start that Carson Hocevar has had in that 42 car was at Bristol. Correct me if I'm wrong. He finished inside the top 10. He finished was it like 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere around there? Like, he took that car, that 42 car, that was not even a top 25 car most weeks. He took that car and ran up inside the top 10, even top 5 at that race. And then when I watched that race, which was a round of 16 elimination race, when I saw that race and I saw, him being inside the top 5 and Ty Gibbs leading laps, I'm just like, the future of NASCAR is here. The future of NASCAR is indeed here. And, no one can argue that statement with me. Yeah, this was, again, not the least kept secret in the garage area, but let's talk about Carson Hocevar, the driver himself. I mean, 2023, you want to talk about a guy who's done a complete 180 on, performance. 2022, we saw multiple times where, we wanted to see him get in the victory lane, but it didn't happen. I mean, Charlotte last year was a prime example of it when he went toe-to-toe with Ryan Preece. But then 2023, when he got that first win in a somewhat controversial way, I remember that episode, and I was, quite frankly, that was not my that was not my opinions have changed on Carson Hocevar since then. But let's move on here. As soon as he got that win at Texas, I believe the floodgates for Carson Hocevar definitely opened up, and he's won 3 races, and as of right now, which the Truck Series will return next weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway. He is currently sitting second in the playoff points, right behind points leader Corey Heim, as he's looking to be a championship favorite along with Heim. This is this has been a really, really big year for Carson Hocevar. A lot of positives. I mean, like I said, a complete 180 in performance. Complete 180. I went from disliking this guy to a certain standpoint to liking him overnight, because not only is he a really good driver, but he's also a goofy person. He has a very, very funny personality. I mean, from the hats to the, live stream that he did actually during the night of the announcement, when he called in the Sirius XM NASCAR radio and discussed his announcement while doing an iRacing event with Moon Cars, or Moonhead, I should say. So, that's really cool for him. That was really cool of him to do, and kind of funny as well. So the dude has a good amount of talent and also a very, very good personality about himself in the sport. So congratulations to Carson Hocevar. Good luck to him for the rest of the season with Nice Motorsports, as we'll talk about Nice Motorsports later on as they announce their 42 Truck Series plans. So good luck to Carson Hocevar in Nice Motorsports, and we'll see how he does in 2024. I'm not really expecting him to go out and do a whole lot, because Spire Motorsports, like I said, we have been following the saga of Spire Motorsports, and I can officially say that the 2023 silly season champions are Spire Motorsports. Hands down, there's no doubt about it. But looking at Spire Motorsports in of themselves, with all these moves that they have made, from getting guys like Zane Smith for a year because he's loaned by Track Acid, getting Carson Hocevar and re-signing Corey LaJoie, and even purchasing Kyle Busch Motorsports, you cannot tell me that all these moves that they are about to make can't end up in some form of success, in some shape or form. I don't expect any of the Spire cars to make the playoffs. I mean, Zane Smith or Carson Hocevar, they could just outperform and just, surprise a lot of people. But, if I'm being realistic when it comes to Carson Hocevar, not Zane Smith, but Carson Hocevar, I am expecting 23rd in points. That's my prediction. I'm expecting him to be 23rd in points. I think that's very, very realistic. Trust me, I want to put him higher on, the points list, because I really want to see this dude succeed. But I just don't really, Spire, they're going to, a lot of people are saying that they're expanding too fast. And, that could be considered, that could be, true in some way, shape, or form. But I just don't see them really doing a whole lot, performance-wise next year. But let me tell you something. I think that this is really the team that's being eyeballed by Andretti to get into NASCAR. I mean, you look at their sponsors, Gamebridge and Group 1001, I believe that's the name of it. Those are both big Andretti sponsors that have poured a lot of money into it. And speaking of Andretti, Marco Andretti for Spire Motorsports in the Truck Series will make his oval debut at Homestead next weekend as well, and he will also make an oval race at the season finale at Phoenix. So there's more Spire news for you guys. But Spire is definitely the winner of the silly season of 2023. So congrats to him, and congrats to Carson Hocevar. And we have more silly season news to talk about after this quick intermission. Sorry for cutting away, ladies and gentlemen, but we have some other silly season rumors that we need to talk about. And I am going to go through the major ones that have come out this week. Let's start out with Colleague Racing real quick. As, we're talking about, earlier how The 16 car is basically a mystery at this point. But AJ Allmendinger did come out and say that he will be running Cup Series races next year, regardless if it's full-time or part-time. So I don't know if that necessarily helps out our case as to, what the 16 is going to do. I don't know if it's going to be a rotational car. I don't know, which I highly doubt it will be because, it's a chartered car. So there's that. But also, there's been some multiple candidates for that ride. There's been a lot of rumors as to who can, be in that car. There's been rumors of Noah Gragson. Hell, from Noah Gragson to Ty Dillon even, just some of the current free agents that are currently out on the market as of right now. I don't know if those guys will be in there. People have said to me Matt DiBenedetto. I don't know about that one either, but we'll get into I don't know when this car will be announced, but Kaulig Racing is just a mystery at this point. But we have some other juicy silly season news. And speaking of Noah Gragson, it was reported by Bob Pockrass during an episode of Door Bumper Clear that Noah Gragson is now the new lead candidate to take over the number 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. Stewart-Haas Racing's number 10 car has been rumored a lot as of late. All signs are pointing to Eric Almirola not returning for 2024 and possibly retiring. And there was rumors a couple weeks ago of Cole Custer possibly getting back up to the Cup Series to run for that car, which that's still a possibility. But Noah Gragson being the new candidate to drive the number 10 car is very, very interesting for me. Personally, this man could go from Legacy Motor Club to Stewart-Haas Racing. If you really think about that, that is a downgrade. And I'll tell you why. Because Legacy Motor Club, as of right now, in these last few races, in these last several races of the season, we have seen them improved. Both cars even, with Eric Jones in the 43. His best run of the year came at Kansas. I believe he got like third or fourth. He definitely finished top five that week. And then Carson Hocevar, when he's doing his oval races, he's, performing at a very, very high level, and, the potential is there for him. Stewart-Haas Racing, on the other hand, who just had their, driver, Kevin Harvick, eliminated from the round of 16 in the playoffs, they have not improved one bit. Their current lineup as of right now, Harvick's obviously retiring, Almirola's possibly retiring. Then you have Chase Briscoe and Ryan Preece, who are, I would say the future drivers of Stewart-Haas Racing. They're young. Preece is only 32, which he's not, young, but he's, young enough to be there for a while, as well as Chase Briscoe, who is a really talented race car driver, I might add, but, Stewart-Haas Racing just doesn't really go, it doesn't go to show, how good Chase Briscoe is of a driver, actually. They're going to get Josh Berry next year, which, no disrespect to Josh Berry, but, he's not going to fix Stewart-Haas Racing right away. Like, no shot in hell. So who does Ford have? I mean, in their pipeline, they have Riley Herbst, and they have Cole Custer, which Cole Custer, he seemed like to be the likely candidate to go back up to the Cup Series after having actually a really solid year in the Xfinity Series. He has 2 wins this year, which one of them has an asterisk behind it because that race, they didn't even get halfway, so I guess that's a way of seeing it. But let's talk about Noah Gragson, for example. I don't see this move happening at all, and I'll tell you why. Because, when you look at both sides, both Noah Gragson and Stewart-Haas Racing, it's just, like, it could be a good recipe, but I'm not saying it's going to be a recipe for disaster, so to speak, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing for Noah Gragson. See, I'm going to go with the the rest of the crowd here, like that mob mentality, and say Noah Gragson deserves an opportunity to be either in trucks or Xfinity. Like that's a better option, because I think there's better spots down there for him compared to what Stewart-Haas Racing has at Cup. Because quite frankly, if I'm a driver, and no disrespect to any fans of these drivers in that lineup, I want to stay far away from Stewart-Haas Racing as possible. I want to go to an organization, and it doesn't even have to be Cup either. I want to go to an organization that proves not only to themselves but proves to the whole world that they can contend for races and championships, and not just that, but at the very least can perform the slightest, and I mean the slightest bit of consistency. And it's quite frankly, and this just goes to show how sad the fall of Stewart-Haas Racing is, because back then they were one of the top teams in this sport. I mean, it was evident as day. But now it's, not a single Stewart-Haas Racing driver has been in the victory lane this year. And that's honestly quite sad. That is honestly quite sad. So, I mean, Stewart-Haas Racing is in a rebuild mode, which Noah Gragson, he is still a very, very young driver, and I'm sure Tony Stewart wants young guys who he could build on for the future as the years goes on, as long as he's still interested in NASCAR, because Tony Stewart, if you've noticed as of recently, he's having a ton of fun in NHRA because he owns an NHRA team now. So, yeah, but as to Noah Gragson and the Stewart-Haas Racing, I don't see it happening. It could, but if I'm Noah Gragson and I have the option to go run at a high-end Xfinity Series or Truck Series team compared to racing in the Cup Series, which, obviously the Cup Series, that's a big opportunity that no one is going to pass up, but this is coming from my standpoint. Obviously, I'm not a race car driver, but I want to prove to people that I could actually perform well and, not just sit back and 25th to 30th every single week and just, the world sees that I'm just not that great, So if I'm Noah Gragson, I take my options. I take the safest option imaginable, and that's go down the ranks and try to rebuild your career there, just like how John Hunter Nemechek did it. I mean, we've seen what John Hunter Nemechek has done the past few years, and he's going back up the Cup next year, so he could take that route very easily. Excuse me. But now there's also more rumors as of late, and this is another colleague racing rumor, and that regards their Xfinity Series team, as young prospect Chandler Smith has been linked to Joe Gibbs Racing for 2024. Wait. What? Oh, hold on a second. You mean to tell me that Xfinity Series rookie Chandler Smith, which we already knew that this guy was going to be a talented prospect going into this year, and he actually has a win. Currently, as of right now, he still sits in the Xfinity Series playoffs. If he wins one of these races, he can go to the championship 4 with colleague. You mean to tell me, after only 1 year, he wants to leave colleague racing? Why exactly? So, someone asked President Chris Rice this past weekend after the A.J. Allmendinger win about Chandler Smith's future, and Chris Rice simply just said, ask his agent. So I don't know what's going on over there at Colleague Racing between Chandler Smith and the team. I don't want to, speculate that there's any bad blood going on, but that is very, very interesting, because I was looking at some articles when I first, saw this rumor being dropped by Matt Weaver, by the way. And it says that he has a 3-year deal with Colleague Racing. So we're going to look at the two sides real quick. We're going to look at the Colleague side, and we're going to look at the Joe Gibbs Racing side, because I don't think Joe Gibbs Racing is an outlier in this situation, but they definitely have a major part in this. But let's look at the Colleague side real quick, because that's what we've been focusing on for the past few minutes. Colleague, their current predicament as of right now is that they don't have, their Cup Series future is very, very uncertain. They did announce a few weeks ago that they will be signing Daniel Hemrick to the 31 cars, so he'll be back up to the Cup Series. But like I mentioned earlier, the 16 is still a mystery. AJ Allmendinger said that he would love to keep Cup racing for 2024, but he's a team player, so whatever Colleague Racing does decide to do, he does not have any problem with it. So that's good on him. But Chandler Smith's future, like long-term future, was actually pretty straightforward, actually, because, had he stayed in the Colleague Racing lineup, it's very possible that, let's just say, AJ retires at the end of next year. I'm not saying he's going to, but let's just say that he retires in 2024, 2025. Chandler Smith was going to be the next guy up to go race for Colleague Racing in that 16 car. So, and now all of a sudden, he wants out. I mean, looking at the Xfinity Series teams between Joe Gibbs Racing and Colleague Racing, I mean, there's no questioning on who's the better team here. Now, Colleague Racing, they have won races, but they have yet to score a championship with that team. Joe Gibbs Racing, on the other hand, I mean, their Xfinity Series team, do I really have to, say anything? Currently, as of right now, they have Sammy Smith and John Hunter Nemechek. But the problem for Joe Gibbs Racing is, now I'm focusing on the Joe Gibbs Racing side, by the way. John Hunter Nemechek, he's going back up the Cup. And Sammy Smith announced weeks later that he's going to Junior Motorsports to drive the 8 car next year. So, 2 empty seats for Joe Gibbs Racing once again. Would they want a guy like Chandler Smith back with Toyota, which Chandler Smith, as we all know, was a former Toyota prospect as he drove for Kyle Busch Motorsports in his first 2 seasons in the Truck Series and made the championship 4 with them last year. Colleague, in Chandler Smith, even in his announcement of going to Colleague Racing, he announced himself that, when it came down to, if I wanted to race with Toyota in the Xfinity Series, he declined that option. Now, all of a sudden, he wants that option back. Like, I don't know what exactly is going to happen with Chandler Smith. I want to assume that that he stays with Colleague, but if Joe Gibbs Racing were to get him, they would have to buy out his contract, which that in of itself is very, very expensive. And it's a very, very sticky situation on both sides because, Toyota, on their standpoint, they have multiple prospects, waiting, mainly Corey Heim, who I think he should have a Joe Gibbs Racing ride next year, but he's most likely supposed to stay in trucks because of funding issues, which, I mean, come on, Corey Heim, one of the top prospects as of right now. Someone please fund the dude. I mean, the dude is ridiculous in what he's doing in trucks as of right now. The dude's talented. Someone sponsor him. Then you have Jesse Love, who won the ARCA Menards Series championship, won 10 out of the 20 races. I don't know what he's doing. I believe he does bring some sponsorship with him, like Yahoo and C4 Energy, but I don't know if he's going to be ready for Xfinity. He's very young. He's only 18 years old. I mean, in comparison, I just turned 18 about 3 days ago. Yeah, happy late birthday for me. Jesse Love is 9 months older than me. That's just how young Jesse Love actually is. So I don't know if he's ready for that. There's William Sawalage, who won the ARCA Menards Series East title, and he actually is a Joe Gibbs Racing driver. But the problem with William Sawalage is that he just turned 17 years old, and he wouldn't be able to run a full-time Xfinity Series season until 2025. So that's off the table as well. So, I mean, Toyota could go out and buy Chandler Smith. It's possible, but would they want him though? Like, in the future of Toyota in of itself is very, very interesting because you're going to have 3 Cup Series teams under their stable next year with both Joe Gibbs Racing, 2311 Racing, and Legacy Motor Club. All those seats are going to be filled. There's possible room for expansion in the future, but they really don't need any of their young guns right now until a guy like Denny Hamlin or Martin Truex Jr. retire, or like I said, or like I just mentioned, that, a team like 23XI expands. So, yeah, this is a very tight situation for Colleague and Chandler Smith. Hopefully they get it resolved. Like I said, I hope that there's not any bad blood going on with them as of right now. But the fact that Chandler Smith already wants out after he's been doing solid with the team this year, he did win a race at Richmond, locking himself into the playoffs, and the fact that you want out already is just, I don't know. It's very it's very, very interesting. Along with that, we also have some driver signings to talk about, as it was announced yesterday that Riley Herbst will be back with Stewart-Haas Racing for 2024. So Riley Herbst will be back for his 5th full-time season in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. There was a rumor a week ago by the Twitter handle, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Private Porno 69, who is actually somewhat, I don't know how they're getting these sources from, or, what reliability that they have, because they've actually gotten some rumors correct over the past few weeks regarding silly season news. But Riley Herbst will be back in Xfinity next year. And there was a rumor a week ago from that user saying that he would go up to the Cup Series next year to drive for Rick Rowe Racing. That's obviously not happening. He might make some part-time starts with the team, which I might, I'm not doubting, because Riley Herbst, if you've seen him in his Super Speedway Cup Series starts, mainly Talladega a couple weeks ago, the dude actually performed at a very, very good level. So, but then Herbst came out and said that, those races aren't a tryout for 2024, so, this and that. So, yeah, Riley Herbst will be back in Xfinity next year. And I did say that Nice Motorsports announced that their 42 truck plans, and they announced that Matt Mills, who's done part-time starts for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the 51, will drive the 42 truck for Nice Motorsports next year. So I'm guessing that Matt Mills does sprain some sponsorship with them, because from what I'm understanding regarding the Carson Hocevar move earlier, that he is branding his sponsorship of like Worldwide Express, Premier Security, and Celsius. I believe he has a sponsorship with Celsius. I don't know. He is bringing that sponsorship with him. So Nice needed some sponsorship money, and Matt Mills had it, so good for Matt Mills. I don't really see him as like a very, very top, driver in trucks or any of the lower divisions, but good on him. So those are some more driver signings. But yeah, that'll do it for that portion of the show, which is the silly season updates. Or so I thought. Because it was announced yesterday by Richard Childress Racing that Sheldon Creed will not return to the number 2 Whelen Chevy Camaro for 2024. Richard Childress Racing yesterday released a statement saying that Sheldon Creed will not be returning as the driver for the number 2 Whelen Camaro in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024. We will make an announcement regarding the driver of the number 2 Whelen Chevrolet in the near future. And then later on, Sheldon Creed made his announcement or statement regarding, his future. And it says, "We have decided to leave Richard Childress Racing at the end of the 2023 Xfinity season. RCR and Whelen gave me my first opportunity out of the Truck Series, and although we haven't gone out and won all the races that we would have wished to, I'll be forever grateful for the friendships, hard work, learning, and growing we have done. Additionally, I can't thank Whelen enough for their never-ending support of me and our team. Extremely excited to share my 2024 plans with you all soon." So, I'll admit that this whole move came out of left field, because, I was very curious to see what RCR's Xfinity Series future was going to be, because it was announced like almost a month ago that Austin Hill will be back with the team in the 21 car, and I was kind of surprised that move was made as well, because he was a candidate for the Kaulig Racing number 31 car when that was still available. So he took that over a Cup Series opportunity. But, Austin Hill is living proof of the analogy that I had earlier of, you want to prove to many people that, you want to perform at a high level with a team, even if it's not in the series that you want it to be. You want to prove to a lot of people that you can perform at a high level. And Austin Hill has done just that. As for Sheldon Creed, however, this is a very interesting thing. And yes, the memes have returned. The timing of this announcement couldn't have come at a far worse time or something like that. And that is true because literally as of right now, both Sheldon Creed and Austin Hill are still in the Xfinity Series playoffs as of right now. So within the playoffs, you decide to make this announcement. That is, RCR, man, they just have a weird way of making announcements in, the timing of their announcements, man. They're not good. They're not good. But as for, let's look at Sheldon Creed real quick. So far, he's only ran 2 full-time seasons in the Xfinity Series, beginning in 2022. And actually, there was actually a post on Twitter that said, something during the Sheldon Creed RCR announcement that, Creed is going to be a driver that's going to be up to the Cup Series soon and winning, races and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, he gets released by RCR 2 years later. So, yeah, that experiment has failed, so to speak. And not necessarily the fact that Sheldon Creed has been a terrible driver in the Xfinity Series. Not at all. It's the fact that, his seasons have been kind of up and down, to say the least. He's been improving so far this year. He did indeed make the playoffs along with his teammate Austin Hill. But if you look at both teams, Austin Hill has completely been the star of the show over at RCR. Like, Sheldon Creed has been overshadowed by that 21 car, mainly because of the fact that Austin Hill has been in the victory lane multiple times with that team. And, Creed hasn't. So far in their 2 combined seasons, Austin Hill has been in the victory lane in the Xfinity Series 6 times, and Sheldon Creed, as of this recording, still has 0 wins. But at the end of Sheldon Creed's statement, it says that he's extremely excited to share his 2024 plans. And there have been some rumors as of late that Sheldon Creed might be the leading candidate for an Xfinity Series ride at Joe Gibbs Racing. And that was a tweet made by Lee Spencer, who says that you can run, but you can't hide from Joe Gibbs Racing equipment. I'm going to take that tweet with a very grain of salt. Lee Spencer, apparently, from what I understand, is a somewhat very reliable source. I've not really heard much of him as of late compared to other, NASCAR journalists out there, or any journalists within the industry, I should say. But I will take that with a grain of salt. That could mean nothing. But at the same time, I don't think he would be a terrible fit for that organization. Like I said earlier, we were talking about the dilemma of, Joe Gibbs Racing trying to find the perfect lineup for the Xfinity Series team next year. And maybe Sheldon Creed, maybe he's just one of those drivers to probably get in one of those rides. I mean, again, they could still get Chandler Smith. They could still buy him out. I did see, some other rumors saying that Sheldon Creed might be a candidate for the 16 car at Kaulig, which that might be possible. I don't see it, though, because Sheldon Creed, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't bring a whole lot of funding with him. And back to the RCR announcement, it sounds like that the Wheel End sponsorship will be staying with the team. So no matter who goes to that 2 car next year, the Wheel End sponsorship will be there. So that's more of an in-house sponsor than a Sheldon Creed sponsor, so to speak. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of sponsorship Sheldon Creed will bring with him. I think he's a talented race car driver. I think that he definitely has the capability of winning races. But I mean, he's a truck series champion, and he's done very, very well this season. I mean, there was literally 2 times this year where Sheldon Creed should have a win, and it didn't happen. I mean, Portland was an example where, it's the Xfinity Series at Portland. Shit's going to get crazy. And then he came inches away from winning at Daytona. And I picked him that week, too, but was sadly beaten by Justin Allgaier at the line. So there have been times where Sheldon Creed has, had the chance to get in the victory lane, but it's just it hasn't happened. And that's a shame. That is truly a shame in that aspect. But I wish Sheldon Creed the best of luck. I'm not going to sit here a while and speculate what his plans are. I mean, it could be either one of the two that I just mentioned. As for RCR, though, who do they sign in their Xfinity Series team? Which that team is a very good Xfinity Series team. That's a championship contending team. There have been a lot of people saying that Ty Dillon is the lead candidate, and honestly, I can't blame you because this announcement literally came the day after it was announced that he would be leaving Spire for Carson Hocevar. So, but I don't believe he is actually the lead candidate. Now, this driver that I'm going to talk about, actually, there's 2 drivers, actually. There's one who's a very good likely option, and then there's one who's kind of an underdog but long shot option. I don't believe Ty Dillon will be in the 2 next year. Again, never say never, but I think that Ty Dillon still wants to be in Cup, and I don't think that he wants to necessarily ride on his grandfather's coattails, so to speak. Because a lot of things that Ty Dillon has done as of the recent years, he's done on his own. He has not had help from RCR or anyone like that. I mean, he had Joe Gibbs Racing rides in the Xfinity Series back in 2021. I highly doubt RCR had any involvement with that. But let's look at the candidates that I possibly think could be a very well option. The first driver I'm going to talk about is Christian Eckes. Now, I know the signs are, pointing that he is going to be back in the 19 car next year, but if Eckes does have the opportunity to go up to the Xfinity Series, I mean, he's very young. He's 22 years old, a very decent a top 10 prospect in the sport. If he has a shot to go racing in the Xfinity Series, look no further than RCR. So that's one driver that I'm thinking about could be a good option. And then there's one other driver that I wanted to talk about, and I actually did make a video about him a few months ago, and that is Parker Retzlaff. And the reason why I say Parker Retzlaff is because there was a tweet made by him making the pen emoji and the writing emoji, meaning that he does have something signed for next year. That could be anything. That could be a re-sign with Jordan Anderson Racing, or that could be that could be him signing with RCR. Now, why am I making these two connect in a way? Well, the first reason why is because Jordan Anderson Racing and RCR do share an alliance with each other, actually, in the Xfinity Series, and Jordan Anderson Racing does use ECR engines. And the second thing is that Parker Retzlaff, again, if you've seen him this season, he has done better than a lot of people are even realizing. So far, he has 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s. Obviously, that's not setting the world on fire, but for what this car is, and for what this driver is, Parker Retzlaff is actually a very underrated driver. If you look at him, he's performing very, very decently. I'm not saying he's a generational talent, but if you put him in that 2 car, and he may be a very, very solid driver, because for what he's doing in that 31 car, which obviously is not a race winning or championship team as of right now, I think Parker could be doing some very good and solid things. So that could be a driver for a candidate for the 2 cars. So, that'll do it for this segment of talking about the Shell and Creed RCR things. So, next topic we're going to talk about, and it's not a racing topic, but I did talk about it earlier in today's episode, and that is regarding the future of the show. Once again, I'm going to remind people, no, we are not canceling the show, and, this show will have a second season. But I do want to talk about how, if you've noticed, it's been me the past few weeks. It's just only been me. I have not had a single guest host on this show in the past few weeks. And first of all, there's no bad blood going on behind the scenes, but the problem is that everyone is busy. School started back up for everybody. It is the month of October, which is understandable. A lot of people are going to be, very, very busy in that. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility of new hosts coming in next year if I can find someone. So, for anybody watching this episode as of right now and are really interested in the show and what the show has been able to become, granted, it's not the biggest podcast in the world, but it's a project that I've been wanting to do for a very long time now. If you are interested in becoming a host of this show, do not hesitate to ask. If you follow any of our social media handles, do not hesitate to ask. But going into 2024, there will be some new formats going on. I'm not going to announce those formats as of right now. I will announce those show formats at a later date. And I'm not going to specify what the formats are as of right now. But just know that there are big changes coming to this show for next year, and I am going to make sure of that. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next topic of the show, and that is the weekend coming up ahead and race picks, ladies and gentlemen. So it is the round of 8, ladies and gentlemen, and then there were 8 drivers. But this is the most important round of the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, because these next 3 races of Las Vegas, Homestead, Miami, and the cutoff race at Martinsville will decide who will race for a NASCAR Cup Series championship at Phoenix this upcoming November. So, this is the most crucial point of the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, because if you win, you are automatically a championship contender. So, currently as of right now, above the cut line for the top 4 in the playoffs goes like this: William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson. The rest, the best of the rest of the top 8 go like this: Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and all the way down 10th in points, or not 10th in points, 10 points below the cut line, Ryan Blaney. So this is a very, very stacked playoff lineup as of right now. Now, I'm going to go one by one with each of these drivers. I'm not going to sit back too long to discuss, a whole lot, but let's get some of the main obvious drivers out of the way, and that's the top 4. William Byron, obviously the championship favorite as of right now, and you look at the round of 12 that he had, first, second, and second. I mean, the momentum for William Byron is just there. I mean, it is just there. There is no stopping William Byron, but me personally, and this is what I think about the 24 team, the only thing that's going to stop William Byron in that team is the team itself. However, they're not known for making a whole lot of mistakes, and they're in the right place at the right time. So luck and good fortune has been in their favor this year. Martin Truex Jr., on the other hand, during the regular season, yes, that was the same exact thing, but the playoffs for Martin Truex Jr. have not been kind whatsoever. He has yet to score a top 15 finish. Now, during the playoff prediction video that I made, before the playoffs started, I had Truex in my Final Four. But as of right now, judging by the performance that he has been having, it's going to be very hard to put him in my new championship 4 lineup as of right now. However, his teammate Denny Hamlin, on the other hand, has not had to worry about a single thing Obviously, the Charlotte Roval didn't go the way that he wanted to. He ended up DNFing, but he was able to score enough points to get himself into the round of 8, and he is only 11 points above the cut line. 11 points above for the driver, the number 11. Very, very fitting. Then you have Kyle Larson in the number 5 car team. So, the round of 12 for Kyle Larson has just not been kind to him over the years, but we are going into the round of 8, which has one particular racetrack that Larson has been very, very good at, as well as his teammate, and that's Homestead Miami Speedway, which obviously, he is the favorite as of right now for that race, and as well as Vegas. I mean, he's very solid at Vegas as well, and he won at Martinsville earlier in the spring. So Kyle Larson has been the victory lane at all 3 of these racetracks. So he can definitely easily win one of those racetracks to lock himself in, as well as his teammate William Byron, who won at Vegas earlier in the year. He's won at Homestead before, and he won at Martinsville last year. So the Hendrick drivers, I see easily making the championship 4. But the other 2 is a bit of a mystery. Then you look at Chris Buescher, who is 3 points below the cut line. Don't get me wrong, I love the run that RFK Racing is having, but at the end of the day, and I hate to do this because I like Chris Buescher and what he's been doing, but the run is going to come to an end eventually, and I just don't see him making the championship 4. Christopher Bell, on the other hand, is very, very interesting to me because I think he could contend at Vegas and Homestead as well. He did win at Martinsville last year, which was that cutoff race to get himself into the championship 4. But, if things do go his way, I definitely think Bell can make it in. But as of right now, I don't see it. Tyler Reddick, on the other hand, I think is the sleeper pick when it comes to championship 4. Because if you've seen the playoffs, they have turned it up in performance. I mean, literally won a race at Kansas, which is a 1.5-mile track. And where are we going? A 1.5-mile track. Granted, it's not Kansas Speedway, but 2311 Racing has been fast as of the recent weeks, and especially at 1.5-mile tracks. I definitely think that he could be fast at Homestead as well because his first 2 visits to Homestead Miami Speedway, he finished 4th and 2nd. His win there, it might come sooner rather than later if he can somehow outbest the 5 car there. And then we go to Martinsville, which is not necessarily one of his best tracks, but, I don't think he really needs to worry about it if he either does A, win at one of the 2 racetracks that are coming up, or just run very, very consistent, get stage points, and just stay out of trouble and hope for, someone above the cut line to completely falter out and fail. I think Reddick makes it easily. Then 10 points below, you have the most wild card driver, and that is Ryan Blaney. Is this the year Ryan Blaney makes the championship 4? I would say no, but it's been a very interesting year for Ryan Blaney. He picked up that win at Talladega to lock himself into the round of 8, literally beat Kevin Harvick by inches. And, for the round of 8 for Blaney, he has very mixed results at both Las Vegas and Homestead, to say the least. So, I don't know if he will make it. If there's any driver below the cut line that's least likely going to make it, it will probably be Ryan Blaney. But, who knows? So does my championship 4 change or stay the same? And I'm going to be completely honest. I think it changes. And it's mainly because of Martin Truex Jr. Now, I know we're coming up on some tracks that Martin Truex Jr. has been the victory lane at multiple times, but I'm not judging based off of the past. I'm judging off of what's going on right now. And right now, Truex has not shown any speed or consistency in the playoffs. Now, he could brush all that aside. He could go out at Las Vegas this weekend, put on a clinic that Martin Truex Jr. is well known for doing at 1.5-mile tracks, and just silence the doubters and just say, yep, I'm going to go race for a championship and I'm going to win here, and he goes out and does it. But as of right now, if there's any driver in the top 4 as of right now, which, by the way, is the ideal championship 4 as of right now with any NASCAR fan as of right now, I don't see Martin Truex Jr. making it. I just really don't. The driver below the cut line who I do see making it. And this dude, like I said, 2311 has been fast on mile and a half tracks. Do not sleep on Tyler Reddick at all. Don't sleep on him. And, you know, I'm sure he would like to win and not worry about the next 2 weeks. But if he just gains top 5s and top 10s and stage points like he's supposed to be doing and finishing really, really well, Reddick may not have to worry. He may not have to worry. But I'm not going to make a new change to my championship 4 as of right now, which I technically already did. But, you know, we're running out of time, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going to get into race picks for this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It is the NASCAR Xfinity Series second race at Las Vegas. Who do I believe is going to win? I really had a whole lot of time to sit back and, you know, make my prediction of who I think will win the Xfinity race compared to the Cup race, but I will discuss a driver who came close to winning at Vegas earlier in the year in Xfinity, and that is Chandler Smith. So I am going to pick Chandler Smith to win the Las Vegas Xfinity Series race and lock himself into the playoffs. Not lock himself into the playoffs, I'm sorry. Lock himself into the championship 4 for the Xfinity Series at Phoenix. So yeah, Chandler Smith is my pick to win the Xfinity Series race at Las Vegas. Then we have the Cup Series race, ladies and gentlemen. And quite frankly, this is a no-brainer pick, and he won there literally earlier in the year, and he has had the best average finish of all Cup Series drivers the past 3 races, and that is William Byron. Even though I picked him last week and he finished second, I am still on the William Byron hype train. Get that win early, Willie B, and not worry about the next 2 weeks, even though you're more than likely going to make it. So why not do it in style? So yeah, my pick to win this weekend at Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, is William Byron. He will sweep the races at Vegas. He will pick up his 7th win of the year, and he will lock himself into the championship 4. So those are my picks, ladies and gentlemen, and that'll do it for yet another episode of the Checkers and Wreckers podcast, ladies and gentlemen, as we have wrapped up episode 34 of season 1. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments and in our social media handles on who you think will make the championship 4 for both Xfinity and Cup in the next coming weeks. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Carl Leonard, and you just watched or listened to the Checkers and Wreckers podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week as we preview Homestead Miami Speedway, and we also preview the Truck Series Championship 4 as well. As always, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carter Leonard, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.